Hi guys, I'm Adam. This is my new channel On The Break, and welcome to my new FM17 Let's Play Black from the Brink. This is my offline save that I've been playing, which I'll now be bringing to YouTube, and this will lead into the release of FM18, by which time I will hope to have Blackburn Rovers back in the Premier League. This episode will be a preview episode of sorts. I'll be catching you guys up with the story so far. There won't be a game today, unfortunately, but we'll take a look at our League and Cup campaign so far, how we've been getting on, and then we'll take a quick look at the squad, a couple of key players, a couple of hot prospects, and then next episode we will jump into a game. So if we take a look at the club screen here, we've got our key employees on the right hand side. We've got myself at the top there, the manager, and then we've got our captain and vice captain, both of whom are players that have been at Blackburn since the start of this save. And then our key player and hot prospect, who are both playing in the same position, but we will come on to that in a little while. So we'll just flick into the competition screen and we'll have a little look at how we've been getting on. So guys, this is the league table for our first season, our campaign in League 1. And as you can see, we won the league. We actually won it by 4 points in the end from Peterborough. And then Portsmouth joined us through the playoffs. Portsmouth actually were a very good team and a big threat right the way through the season, but really tailed off at the end, which they will be disappointed with. But they got their promotion through the playoffs. In terms of ourselves, winning the league was kind of expected. Blackburn are a massive club for a League One standard, a really big club to be playing in that division. So winning the league was always expected. I would say that teams along the lines of Wigan and maybe Blackpool, who obviously were Premier League recently, would sort of be teams of a similar stature, but for Blackburn, a league title was always on the cards, and luckily we managed to deliver it. I'm not going to claim that I am any kind of football manager expert. I'm certainly not, especially tactically. I tend to struggle occasionally. Once I find something that works fairly well, I can tweak it. But I was really chuffed to come in and win the league in the first season. So delighted with that. And then if we have a little look at the schedule for that season, you'll see that we actually started really well. We had one defeat in the middle there, a cup defeat that we'll come to in a sec. But we went 10 or 11 games without defeat at the start of the season. Got ourselves to a really strong start. And we just kind of built from that. We were very consistent through the season. I would say the first half of the season was stronger than the second. But another big unbeaten run towards the end of the season there really helped to solidify our place. And a big win there away from home, at Peterborough. A big win there that really set the tone for us. That kind of distanced us a little bit. And then we managed to see it out. So in terms of the cups, I say there, an EFL defeat. We got through the first round. It took us extra time to beat Oldham away from home. But we got the win. Bradley Dack scored the winner for us. And then that sent us through to the second round where we played West Brom at home. Obviously West Brom, established Premier League team at this point. So they came away with the win. Oliver Burke, that they had just signed from RB Leipzig. He came in and made a good impact and scored against us. So unlucky to be knocked out there. We were never really looking like we were going to win that game, but it was not the end of the world that we didn't. And then in the FA Cup, we played against non-league Gloucester City in the first round. We had a man sent off, but still managed to coast to a 2-0 win, so that was fairly straightforward. And then in the second round, we were drawn at home again, but to Bradford City. A game that we would have liked to have won. Obviously, by this point, we were fairly well established at the top of the league. But Bradford came in and scored an early goal and managed to just sit and defend and managed to walk away with the win. So a little bit disappointing that we went out in that way. Success was never on the cards though, really. So not too disappointed to go out of the FA Cup, but very disappointed to go out that early. Certainly not what we had intended. Moving on to Season 2 then, season after promotion. And you can see there we had a very solid 12th place finish, bang in the middle of the table. I was very happy with that actually. Our expectation was to finish down around in this area. You can see some really big teams there. Crystal Palace and Sunderland both really struggling this season. Sunderland actually only became safe on the last day by beating us in a game that we rested a few because we had nothing to play for. So really happy with 12th place. Like I say, it was nice to just come up without any real fear of relegation. It wasn't really on the cards at any point. We had a very inconsistent season. Didn't really string together too many wins at any one point, but always doing enough to keep ourselves very comfortable. Looking into the schedule then. Looking at the schedule then, you will see that it was far more inconsistent, far less green on the screen there. A lot of red, but a lot of yellow, so always picking up a few points. Never going a massive amount of time without picking up anything. A poor run here where we had 3 draws followed by 3 defeats. It's probably about as bad as it got this season. And then a few wins towards the end, less draws and more winning of games. Really saw us push our way back up the table into that 12th place. I think before this little run we were somewhere around 15th or 16th. So just to build a little bit more. And like I say, the last 2 games of the season, we didn't really have anything to play for. So we brought a couple of youngsters in. But like you can see there, some of the names there. Scott Walton hadn't played a lot. Aidan Turner was a youth player that came on. John Buckley, another one that wasn't anywhere near the first team picture. So a few players there that played a little bit. But a very solid season overall. In terms of the cups, the EFL Cup, we went to Rotherham and beat them 2-0 in the first round of the EFL Cup. Nice solid win there. Lee Evans, who was a new signing for us that season, getting off the mark nice and early. I'm not sure he even played in the first championship game, so that may have been 2 minutes into his debut that he scored that goal. But a nice solid win there. And then we got drawn away to Brighton in the second round. Brighton had been promoted to the Premier League, so they had obviously had the capacity to strengthen a little bit, and they managed to beat us 2-0. It was fairly routine for them. We never really threatened them. So a little bit disappointing, but not the end of the world. And then when it comes to the FA Cup, we actually got entered into the third round and went straight into an away tie with Everton. We hoped that if Everton had rested a few, that we may have been able to nick an upset, but they didn't. Gylfi Sigurdsson and Sandro, both 20 million plus players at least, both scored a goal each, and we said goodbye to the FA Cup. So, moving into our third season, our second in the Championship, and a little bit of progress. We finished 8th, as you can see there. Not a season that I was overly thrilled with. We were in and around the playoffs for the vast majority of the season. We were starting to look like a really good Championship team. Maybe not scoring as many goals as we would like, but certainly doing very well for ourselves, and was really looking to push into a playoff spot this season, but it wasn't to be. Another season of consolidation. We strengthened the squad over that summer, and not getting promoted and not making the playoffs allowed us to really strengthen again, ready for a push at the top of the league. So in that sense, I guess not too upsetting to not getting around the promotion, but when you're in a playoff place with 10 or so games to go, you've really got to be looking to make it in there at the end of the season. So I was a little bit disappointed with that. The big reason for that was this horrible run of form towards the end of the season. As you can see there, 6 defeats on the bounce. All Championship games, no cups in there, 6 solid league defeats. Really disappointed with that end to the season. The Crystal Palace game there was a complete dead rubber by this point. We weren't able to make it to the playoffs. I actually went with a 3 at the back formation that I had never played, never trained, completely new to all the players, and they managed to come away with a 2-0 win, which actually made me feel worse about the run of form at the end of the season, if I'm honest. If we head back to the start, you see that we were We were solid. We were slightly inconsistent in places, going 5 or 6 games without a win here, but far more green there than we could see last season, and putting a few wins together. And like I say, really, it all just fell apart with that run of form at the end of the season. There was no shift in tactic. There was no key injury. It was just a really poor run of form, and I was very upset to miss out on the playoffs based on that. And like I say, you would maybe have taken a bit of progression and finishing just outside the playoffs at the start of the season. If I'd been offered that, I think I would have said, yeah, that seems reasonable. But like I say, we were comfortably in the playoffs before this run of form. So to fall away and finish outside is really disappointing. In terms of the cups, you'll see that we went a little bit further this year. The EFL Cup, we started with an away game at Hartlepool. We won that fairly comfortably 2-0. Osman Sow, who was a new signing, got himself on the score sheet, and then managed to grab a goal in the next game as well, and then got an injury which really ruined his season. So disappointing from that sense, but he did make a good start, and we managed to see off Hartlepool. And then the second round was another away tie at Swindon. Dave Nugent, who had been signed and really had done very little, came in and grabbed himself a hat-trick. He had done nothing the season before. Sorry, he signed in our first championship season. Had done nothing that year, but started this season on fire. And then he actually also got an injury which curtailed his season. So disappointed with the amount of rotation we had to do at the front, but for this game he was absolutely on fire. Grabbed us a hat-trick, and Dominic Samuel finished it off for us, so a convincing 4-0 win. And then that took us into an away tie at Arsenal. Now, they did rotate. They played a weakened team, but still some very good players in there. Luan is a very, very good player. Alex Iwobi, a player that has been in their first team since the start of this save. And Ben Hiard, I would say that is a regen that we actually looked at trying to get in on loan. Another very good player. So they had enough about them to see us off. We did give them a game. We actually took the lead once. We did take the lead though at one point. And like I say, we gave them a good game, but they just had too much for us in the end. And then in the FA Cup, we got drawn away to Southampton in the third round, Premier League Southampton, and thanks to a late goal there from Dan Gosling, we managed to get an away draw, which was a really good result. I was very happy with that. Taking them in and hitting them on the counter-attack really worked out for us in this game. So we managed to get ourselves a replay, which we then won 2-0 at home. Tyrese Campbell, a youngster on loan from Stoke, putting them to the sword there. So that was really nice to see. And then we had a tie against fellow Championship team Sheffield Wednesday at home in the fourth round. And after beating Southampton over 2 legs, over 2 legs after a replay, we were feeling pretty confident. And although we did go behind, Bradley Dack, who was absolutely on fire in this season, finished our top scorer. He played very well and put us through. And then in the fifth round, another away draw. We actually got drawn to Wolves, who were Premier League by this point. They had been promoted, spent a lot of money. So was delighted with that. We went behind late on. We had been sitting and trying to hit them on the counter, and they went 1-0 down, 1-0 up. Sorry. So we threw everything we had at them, and Will Keane managed to grab us a last-minute equaliser to get us a replay, which we then went on to win 4-2. So delighted with that. Will Keane got another couple. Miranda, a centre-back that came in, a decent penalty taker, so he put one of those away, and Bradley Dack scoring again. So a really good win over another Premier League team, by which point, far and away the best cup run we had. Was really, really happy with it. Ready to take on anyone. We got drawn to Liverpool in the quarter-final at home. We took an early lead. Again, they did rotate, much like Arsenal did in the EFL Cup, but still, you could name 5 or 6 20 million plus players in that Liverpool team. In the end, that quality told, and they did see us off 3-1, but was very happy with the FA Cup run in this season. was pleased to make it as far as we did. So, after just missing out on the playoffs in Season 3, we move forward looking for an assault on the league title. To be honest, I was confident that with enough signings we could bring in the strength we needed. We didn't quite get there. We finished third in the end. We were in the automatic spots for parts of the season. We were in and around it, finishing 4 points away in the end. Norwich and Fulham just having a little bit too much for us. But third was a playoff place, was happy to make the playoffs. I still felt that if we could get ourselves through that, we would have a good chance of staying up in the Premier League. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be. We had Barnsley in the playoffs, and you'll see there, over 2 legs, a 2-2 draw away from home, and a 1-0 defeat at Ewood Park, which was really disappointing. We just offered nothing in that game. So disappointing not to be promoted. We started the season really poorly, 3 defeats in the first 3 games, and then a draw at home to Cardiff, so 1 point after 4 games. And I honestly believe that if we had managed to get off to a better start, with the form we had afterwards, we could have won the league. We would certainly have got promoted with a few better results from those games. But it wasn't to be. They weren't the toughest of games. Norwich obviously was a difficult game away on the first game of the season. Andrew Calvert there, a youngster on loan from Arsenal, very good player. He put us to the sword in the first game. So disappointing with the start of the season, but the rest of the form was absolutely spectacular. This run of form in the middle here, that had us up to the top of the league, and we were absolutely flying. We felt like we could take on anyone with our slightly different shape. We had actually changed formation every season up to this point. It was 4-4-2 in the first season, and then a 4-3-1-2. This season we started to implement a diamond just to get a midfielder in to hold back a little bit, and it certainly worked for us. The run of form was absolutely incredible. But the big talking point of this season isn't actually the league campaign, it was our cup campaigns. As if we take out everything that isn't a cup, you'll see there straight away that we got to the final of both cups. If we start with the EFL Cup, we'll whiz through these first few rounds quickly. 2-0 win away from home against Chesterfield, fairly standard. A disappointing result as it turns out. We got through the game at Gillingham, but for it to take extra time was very disappointing in a game that we really should have had wrapped up earlier than that. Third round, we went to Accrington, went away to them and beat them 3-1, again fairly routine. And then this is where it starts to get really interesting. We were drawn with Liverpool in the 4th round of the EFL Cup, obviously knocked us out of the Cup last year, the FA Cup. And we absolutely did a job on them. A similar strength team to the side that they had put out last season. But on the counter-attack, we just absolutely tore them apart. Eddie Nketiah, I would say that is, on loan from Arsenal. Really did a good job for us. He was inconsistent for the season, but absolutely brilliant this day. So that took us through against a decent strength Liverpool side. And then the absolute highlight has to be a 3-2 win over Manchester United. And maybe not full strength, but a very good Manchester United side. You look at the names in there. Romero, or not first choice, but an international goalkeeper. Lindelof, Bailly, Blind, Matic, Pogba, Mkhitaryan, Angel Correa, Rashford, Lukaku. An absolutely amazing Manchester United side. And we managed to take them apart. We beat them 3-2, playing on the counter-attack. And we were just absolutely deadly. So really, really happy with that. And then the semi-final, we had Bournemouth and beat them 1-0 in the first leg at home. Again, taking them on the counter. We played the whole season on the counter-attack, really. That's the way I like to set up. It makes us nice and solid at the back. For the most part, another clean sheet in this game. But a really good win against a Premier League team. And then in the away leg, they got a draw, but after having someone sent off and Henry Lansbury putting away the penalty, they didn't have enough to come at us and grab another goal that would have seen them go through, I believe, if extra goals is the way that will work, but certainly would have taken us further. So delighted with that. And then come the end of the season, or not the end of the season, but the end of the campaign for the EFL Cup, we had the final against Everton, and we managed to win it. Our goalkeeper, David Raya, seen earlier as the key player, actually got injured the day before the cup final, so I was starting to panic. We had played Luke Wassell in a couple of the games, but I didn't feel he was ready to start the final, but he had to, and he did a fine job. And like I say, delighted to win the EFL Cup, which obviously meant Europa League football for the next season, the season we're currently in, which was very exciting. It was disappointing not to get promoted, but to get European football was something I could never have dreamed of. Never saw this coming, so really, really chuffed with that. And then if we take a quick look at the FA Cup results, another good run. A home win against Lincoln, who were non-league. Somewhat of a rotated side. More a case of youngsters coming off the bench, really, rather than starting the game. But a good win there, nice and early. All the goals coming, or all of our goals coming in the first half. Then a home win over Crystal Palace, who were still struggling in the Championship at this point. Not doing too well that season. But a good win there, nice 3-0 win. Nketiah getting another couple. And then a really good win away from home against Norwich, who obviously at this point were Premier League. So delighted with that. And then into the quarterfinals, we got Derby, a home draw, and we put them away fairly comfortably. And then for the second time in a season, we managed to beat Manchester United, a similar strength team, I believe, to the first game. Again, the sorts of names there: Romero, Lindelof, Smalling, Bailly, Herrera, Pogba, Mkhitaryan, Rashford, Correa. They're all internationals. Danny King is a really, really good youngster that they've had come through. And Sousa, similar, not quite to the same standard. He actually got himself sent off in this match, which certainly helped us. They were battering us at that point, and then Lois Dione managed to come up with a last-minute goal for us. So delighted with that. So that took us into the final, where we faced Chelsea, a team we hadn't played at any point, and they just had too much for us. Their front line was incredible. Diabala got off the mark for them after 5 minutes. But if you look at the sorts of players in that team, Courtois, Christensen, Phil Jones, Salvador Meza is an unreal regen that they have. Aurier, Alonso, they went full strength, and you could see it. The fact that David Luiz, their captain, only came on at half-time shows you everything, really, about how well that team has been doing, how strong that squad is. So I was disappointed to lose the final, but not too upset. We had incredible runs in both the cups this year, so really, really delighted with that. So here we are at our current season. This is season 5 of this save, and I'm on the overview page just to give you a rundown of everything that we're up to at the minute. So with having to have Europa League football mixed in with league football, obviously the Championship isn't really scheduled to compensate for that. So we are 7th at the minute, but you can see that we have 4 games in hand on most of the teams in the league. Our last game was actually our first defeat of the season, where we actually got battered 4-1 by Swansea, really disappointing. But we're off to a very good start. If we can win our games in hand, we will sit comfortably at the top of the league, or fairly comfortably at the top of the league. So that would be nice to see. The board want the playoffs. I want the league title. I think the squad now is strong enough that we can do it. Some of these teams in and around us have very good players, but they're all teams we're capable of beating, and we have beaten over the past couple of seasons. So I would like a league title. I think that's got to be the goal. Promotion is essential this season, really. I'd really like to think that we could get promoted this season. I'll be quite disappointed if we don't. Moving on to the Europa League, we got through our 2 qualifying rounds, playing against an Israeli team in the first qualifier that we played and an Icelandic team in the second, I believe it was. We got through both of those fairly comfortably. The only real talking point of that was the Israeli team had Colin Kazim-Richards playing for them, who is a previous Blackburn player. And as I'm sure many of you may know, if a player used to play for a club and you play them on Football Manager, they're going to score. And of course he did. He put them ahead after a couple of minutes, but we had far too much of them and saw them off fairly easily. So we got drawn into our group with Roma, Hertha Berlin and Slaven Belupo. We weren't looking to be the whipping boys of this group. I think that falls for Slaven to to have that tag, but we were third seeds, and we got off to a very strong start. We actually beat Hertha Berlin in our first group game, and then sneaked a 1-0 at home, I believe it was. Oh, no, sorry. Yes, sorry, at home to Slaven Belupo. So 2 1-0 wins away from Hertha, a really good result. And we have just lost at home to Roma. To be honest, to take anything away from either game against Roma was going to be asking a hell of a lot. So we've reached our expectations in getting to the group stage. Europa League football is something that was far and away from what this team should have been getting, but a really good cup run last year allowed it. And we're enjoying it. There's not any pressure. If we get through the groups, then that'll be fantastic. And at this point, we are on course to do that. If we can match the results that we had in the first half of the group, then we should get there. But just really enjoying being in the competition. It won't happen again for a few years now. So just enjoying it while it's there. And then moving on to the domestic cup competitions. The FA Cup we haven't started yet, but I'd like to think that we could go a little way in that if the draws are kind and we can hit teams on the break like we have been doing for the past season or so. The EFL Cup, massive disappointment. You can see they're knocked out in the first round by York City. A really, really disappointing result. York City, almost bottom of League Two. So really, really disappointed with that. If we have a quick look at the schedule, you'll see that we've played very well, especially in the league. We've been battering teams 5-0 and 6-0. 5-0 to Bristol City there. 6-0 actually came in the Europa League. That was our playoff against KR, the Icelandic team. But scoring goals has been quite an issue for us for parts of this save. So to get 11 in 2 games is something that I haven't had at any point of this save, so really nice to see. So we'll just have a quick look at the squad just to finish up this episode. This is the squad as it stands. I'm really happy with the squad, actually. I think we've got a good balance. We've got cover for every position. And like I say, scoring goals has been an issue, but starting to get some really good performers in there. So just having to flip through a few of the key men. David Raya, goalkeeper. Been number 1 since the start of the save. Has been my first choice ever since. At times has looked like he's going to move on. I have recently just had to tie him down to a new contract to keep him. He was wanted by a couple of Premier League teams who wouldn't pay his release clause at just over £10 million. I wouldn't accept anything less for him. So when the interest went away, he became happy at the club again, and I've tied him into a 4-year deal with no release clause, which I'm really, really happy with. And that also has a 3-year club extension on it, or optional extension by the club. So David Raya could be here for the next 7 years, which I'm really, really happy about. And then we have Scott Wharton, our centre-back, our vice-captain now. Started the game out on loan at Cambridge, a deal that wasn't done by me. Technically not the best. These started at 11s in all the key stats here, heading, marking, tackling, in and around the 11 mark, but they're progressing nicely. But what I love about this guy is just how consistent he is. He never seems to have a bad game. He forced his way into my side for our first championship season, and then went out on loan for the season after that. Actually, he had a loan spell at Millwall. I thought we had better centre-halves in the squad, and I didn't want to see him stagnate. So I sent him out to Millwall to get some game time. And he was actually performing better than anybody I had at the club. So once I could get him back into the side, I did that, and he's been ever present ever since. His values rocketed up, and quite honestly, I think if we were in the Premier League, he would have been looking at an England call-up by now. He's been absolutely fantastic for us. So then we have Henry Lansbury, our most expensive signing at this point, I believe. I think I paid $800k to bring him here, if you just have a quick look at that. Yeah, $800k. I'm fairly sure that's our most expensive signing. But another very good player. Excuse me. There we are. Another very good player. Someone I wanted to bring in. I originally had him playing in the deep line playmaker role, which isn't maybe what suits him best. He does like to get forward. But we've just allowed him to do that, and that bit of extra freedom has really started to help his game. Key player, and he has, although he's got quite a poor penalty taking attribute, he does seem to put them away. I've never seen him miss one that I can remember. So he's come up with a few key goals in that sense, and a player I'm really, really pleased to have. And then we have Will Keane, a player who we have had for a little while now. He actually originally came in on a loan deal for the second half of the season to cover an injury. But he was a player I looked to bring back straight away. Has been really, really good for us. And generally scores a fair amount. The stats don't maybe show it. 16 and 35 last season is not massively prolific, but a lot of those goals are very important, and he always seems to be the one that starts off a good game. If he gets the first goal, we tend to do well. So really, really pleased with him. And he is developing a lovely partnership with our new young striker, who I will show you in just a second, but really, really happy with how those guys are getting on. So those, I would say, are our key performers. In terms of hot prospects, we're lacking a little in midfield. We do have one for nearly each position, so we'll go with goalkeeper first. Luke Wassell. If you guys remember, he played in our EFL Cup triumph, so he already has an EFL Cup win under his name, whereas our established first choice David Raya doesn't. Really, really good goalkeeper. If it wasn't for Raya, he would already be starting every game. I'm going to look to get him some game time as he is looking to leave, but I've got no intention of letting him go. If we're in the Premier League, he needs to be there with us. And then possibly my best signing in terms of being able to possibly turn a profit on them. Kazemi, Hamid Reza Kazemi, a player that I actually was recommended by his agent. He came through and said, my client is looking for a new club. He was available for a measly 74k, so I snapped him up while I had the chance. But the thing that really drew me about this guy was the fact that he is already an Iranian international, and what that means is we were able to get a work permit for him. Brexit has hit in this save, which means that a few of our players over the course of this save have had to go out on loan because we've offered them new deals and they haven't had work permits, so we haven't been able to use them. So we've been loaning them out until they can either get a work permit or we can sell them. So this guy came in to actually replace two centre-halves that both had to go out on loan. We couldn't get work permits for either of them, but we were stuck paying their contract, and this guy came in, and he's been solid when he's played. He hasn't had a massive amount of opportunity with him being away on international duty and getting a couple of injuries, but a very, very good player. I'd like to work on his quickness. 9 acceleration, 11 pace isn't perfect. I like to have quick players all across the pitch if I can. But very good technically and good mentals, and he'll be a very, very good player. You can see at 20 years of age, he's already worth 5 million. So we can sell him on for a massive, massive profit. And then we have a couple of strikers. We'll start with Gary McCauley, Northern Irish international, player that I actually found on a free transfer mid-season. He had been released from Crusaders in Northern Ireland without playing a game, which I found to be quite strange. Very, very good player, would almost certainly have ripped it up for them there. But he was available as a free agent, and I brought him in just to act as cover for the second half of last season. He scored a couple of goals. He's not been prolific by any means, but he's a player that will continue to develop. And if we get to the point where we need to loan him out, then we can almost certainly do that. But really, really good player, only 20 years of age again. Potential to go all the way to the Premier League, if not a little bit further, so delighted with him. And then we have the big one, my favourite player of this save so far, youth team product, a striker called Nathan Price, who has just blown his way into the first team this season. The attributes are looking really, really good. They're improving all the time. 18 determination, I really, really like. Decent finishing, decent first touch. But what I really love is that he has taught himself to play as a complete forward. I hadn't been training that. When he was out on loan last season at Walsall, he actually started to be trained to play as a left midfielder, which I really wasn't happy with. But he's come back and he sat in our squad in pre-season looking to just really be the backup to get a bit of game time, much like Luke Wassell in goal. But he started a couple of Europa League games and was absolutely on fire. So how do you drop him? We flip between playing him as a target man on support, which he can do. 6 foot tall, 17 strength, really, really big and strong. So a really good option to have. And we do occasionally play him as the complete forward as well, either on a support or attacking duty. But he's going to be an absolutely incredible player, already 4-star ability. and well up there with the best players of the league at 18 years of age. So very, very excited to see how he develops. So that's it for this episode, guys. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I think what we'll do is next time we will try to come back for this Hertha Berlin Europa League game. I think that would be quite interesting for you guys to see. My first ever live com, so hopefully it goes well. I really hope you enjoyed. If you did, please hit the like button for me. That would be absolutely fantastic. And if you would like to see more, please consider hitting the subscribe button for me. That would be absolutely amazing. This is all completely new to me, so hopefully you guys see it and enjoy it. That would absolutely mean the world to me. And if you do catch this and would like to see more, I will see you next time.